Hello, welcome to Search with Sean, and this is another episode of Real Talk with Sean. I have some great guests, and as usual, we're getting some hot topics and get their points of view, and then obviously have a bit of a discussion about them. So, let's get going with the intros because I want to get onto these topics and stop talking and hear from our guest. So, first of all, Carmen. Carmen is currently the Director of Organic Growth at Welltech and a judge at the EU Search Awards. We also have Amanda. Amanda is currently the Director and Head of Organic Media at Cedarwood Digital and host of Manchester DM. And we have David. He's a self-employed digital marketing and SEO consultant with over 30 years experience. And we also have Kira, is currently the founder of Diary of an SEO. So yeah, thank you all for joining. Really excited about this one. I think it's going to be some great topics, hot topics that people are discussing in the industry. So yeah, let's I don't like the sound of my own voice, so I'm gonna pass it over to you in a minute, and let's get started on topic one. So, and this is an interesting one. So, how important is keyword tracking today, and how should it be leveraged effectively, and what does the future hold for SEO tools? Obviously, it might not just be keyword tracking tools generally, but with the emergence of things like large language models. So yeah, let's pass it over first of all to David. What do you think about it?
I think it's fascinating. I mean, I remember when keyword tracking was the be all and end all, but those were the days when a number one spot or a number three spot, whatever, was kind of universal. Obviously, I'm going back quite some way here. These days, I find I use this less and less as a primary metric to view and review. Um, I still think it holds a lot of interest, but I think, as you say, the other big one I find is that just tracking on Google UK or Google US, it leaves so much open as to what people are actually going to be seeing in the real world. So I think it's moved on quite a bit. It's something that needs to be thought of a bit smarter these days. Because believe me, there's nothing worse than going to a client and saying, "Hey, you're number one for this keyword," and no one in the firm sees it as number one. It shows up something totally different for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there before. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I've also actually had an opposite situation happen to me earlier this week when I was auditing a website for a client, and I was like, "Oh, you're not in the top 20 positions for this keyword," and they're like, "Oh, actually, I just did a search from position 8," and I was like, "Thanks, Ahrefs. That's great news, isn't it?" So yeah, that wasn't ideal. Actually, on this point, so we do some keyword tracking, particularly for high intent keywords. I think there's a couple of things to keyword tracking. So I think you've really got to focus in on the money keywords rather than just kind of grabbing a whole batch of keywords that are relevant to the client, let's say. But I actually I'm kind of been reading through a report that AccuRanker pulled out with regards to pixel. Basically, it's the pixel position on the scroll. And they did a report and they analyzed, I think it was like 1.2 billion searches, and they looked at the click-through rates based on where the actual pixel position was. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from it was that in most instances, obviously it changes because you've got all the different sort of SERP features, and you've also got the AI boxes on some informational searches and so on and so forth. But I think the biggest takeaway was that in most situations, the position one is now clicking through at 15%. Which is massively lower than what it was previously. And then as you kind of get further and further down, obviously you're sort of looking at 4 and 5, and then you've really got a diminishing return. I mean, it makes sense. You've got an AI box, you've got normally 4 ads, you've got sort of various bits and pieces. But I think what we're doing now with our keyword tracking is we're taking it with a pinch of salt. So, we're sort of saying, whereas previously if you're off page 1, now it's kind of like if you're outside, lower than maybe 4 or 5, it's a bit different. But we're combining that data with this kind of pixel ranking data, to really understand, well, actually, what does that mean? So, ranking in position 1 for that keyword, what does that mean for that keyword? Or ranking in position 3 for that keyword, like what is that actually doing? How much traffic is that bringing? What visibility is that giving us? And I think that's the biggest thing. We've been doing it from a forecasting perspective. and just almost changing that mindset around, you know, all position 5s are equal. They're absolutely not. You know, actually where physically on the page is it, as regards to kind of what position it's in.
Yeah, it's a good point actually, because I think obviously, like, you look at, you know, second, your second, your third, we're all really, and the thing that throws in the curveball is that everyone sees different results, but also it can differ. You know, if we're looking at, say, I'm just looking at charity terms, if none of those people on the page are charities except us, then we have got an advantage, don't matter what, depending on the search tone. But it really does depend what's showing up for the results, because it could be, the rest of them could be totally irrelevant compared to what you're trying to put across as a message or a service or whatever. So it is all in context, I guess. Kira, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think some really great points. And the way I always think about it is it's so much more than people think. And we have to look at it from client perspective and the SEO specialist perspective as well. Because it's not, we all know that what we think is right and what we know is right for metrics is not always how it's supposed to be communicated. So I think with these position 0 and the keyword tracking aspect, it's incredibly important if you are communicating with a client. And I'm not sure that will change for a long time. But for us internally, the way that we track these keywords, it used to be, oh, position 0 is the best place you could be. Is that still the case in every scenario? No. So like Amanda said, we need to really take it bit by bit and understand from multiple perspectives. But yes, I think it is still important in its communication, and also with the rise of AI and with the way that keyword tracking is evolving. So if we could get live updates, so say every hour, every couple of minutes of where the positions are, that would be a lot more useful than if you have them, you know, on an average when you're reporting, or every other day.
Yeah, that's a valid point. And obviously I did note it down from when Amanda was talking as well, that, you know, these SEO tools are going to have to get smarter and move with the times, and they're going to compete with the large language models and the offering. And, you know, so they are going to get better at pixel positioning. I know some are already offering this, but like you say, update it more regularly, get a more universal sort of viewpoint from it. And also, like you say, AI overviews, you know, getting better at reporting those. I see great inconsistencies when I look at different SEO tools. If it's SEMrush versus Hrefs or whatever it is, I'm like, well, which one's the truth? Because they're both giving me quite different things. I'm doing a bit of, and I don't want to talk about it, I'm doing a bit of a deep dive on Wikipedia, my best friends over there, and just seeing like results from SEMrush and Hrefs is totally different. I don't even know which one to kind of reference, because it's quite a contrast. And like you say, position 0 isn't always the best thing, which is really interesting. Like, you think, oh great, we've got that feature snippet, that AI overview or whatever, and it's actually not great if you think about it in some contexts. So yeah, interesting. Carmen, what do you think?
I was just thinking that almost a year ago, you interviewed me as well for the channel, and you asked me the same question. And I remember going in a massive rant against tracking keywords already 1 year ago. Not about tracking keyword, but using keyword rankings as your first KPI. And frankly, for me, it hasn't really changed. I see the difficulty between, like, when you have clients, because changing clients' minds is still really difficult. They're still in the mindset of where is my keyword, and frankly, things have changed drastically since. I also always didn't really like relying only in third-party tools for my data. So that is another classic that I know when you work in an agency or your client or clients themselves, they always use Href or SEMrush to check the keywords, but always been more inclined to use Google Search Console. Obviously, you don't always have access to Google Search Console's data for your clients, particularly when you're pitching. But Google Search Console data is always going to show you kind of more realistic data that whatever Href or SEMrush is going to show you. So this debate for me is already something that is been going on for a while. Now on the point of Amanda, I also read that study, and actually for me, it has really messed up my forecast, all the tools I have already created, because since AI overviews came, basically everything changed. We knew that it was going to change, but we didn't realize how much it was going to change in terms of CTR. So for me, already last year, my main KPI was always monitoring click-through rate versus rankings, because it was telling me a kind of a bigger story. But now even looking into click-through rate is not giving enough of a story, because sometimes the data that you get from Google Search Console is not even full data, even if you use Google Search Console API. So just to say, for me, I do track keywords only to see if Google is recognizing my contents properly, and to see if Google is understanding what I'm trying to, what the intention of the content and the page is. I don't obsess over keyword rankings specifically one by one. I group them always in clusters, and as Amanda said, I always look into the money making keywords, if anything, and also in the grouping of the intent of the pages I'm trying to rank. But it's not, keyword ranking is not even in the reports I do to my managers. It hasn't been for the last year, and even when I've done consultancy work, it has not been among the work that I do. So for me, it's a big call for everyone, SEOs that still use keyword rankings. Yes, use them, but still don't obsess over them, because as everyone has said before me, the information that it gives is not that relevant, and it's going to be less and less relevant as users go more to AI to search, because we're not going to get the data, and even AI overviews data, we won't see it, right? Because we don't even see Google Search Console. So we really need to get away from it, at least as a KPI, I think.
Yeah, just on that point, obviously, like say, it's about education, isn't it, really? Because if people are still in that mindset around, you know, like even now with traffic, you know, the big argument about traffic, and actually, you know, should we be focusing on organic traffic, or should we be focusing on, you know, visibility and the value of the traffic coming in and that kind of thing? So it's just a matter of education. If you keep, I guess, if you keep reporting on it, they're going to keep focusing on it, isn't it? It's kind of just, it's in their mind still that this is important. So I guess it's just a mindset change. And but I do agree with Amanda as well, that you should still be tracking key, like those key terms that you really want to focus on, just to see, just to keep up to date. Kind of, it still gives you data to work with. And also a shout out to like Daniel Foley-Carty, who's working with SEO Stack, and he's kind of mixing Google Search Console data with artificial intelligence, which could be an interesting thing going forward. Is there any other sort of comments that people have on this topic?
I was going to make a comment about traffic, actually, because we're talking about keywords, but now I can even see people who don't really care about traffic. Like even for me, when I report, the traffic information is not even yeah, okay, it's good for vanity, but I don't care. I want to see the conversions, and I want to see how people convert, and I want to see how much conversions are coming from YouTube, for example. So we not only we're moving away from keyword tracking, now we're even moving away from traffic being the main KPI as it used to be for SEO. And yes, right yesterday I saw this video from Sparktoro that they were talking about how SEO is moving away from reporting in traffic. So definitely one conversation that is going to start coming up in the next few months is really not only keywords, it's even traffic, something that we need to report on. So I thought it was nice that you mentioned it, Sean.
I think just to add to that as well. Oh, sorry, Sean. I was just going to say, with regards to what Carmen was saying about the kind of education piece, You know, as someone that works with quite a lot of clients, it is a bit of an uphill struggle at times to educate them away from the concept of keywords and traffic, because, you know, when we ask them, for our clients, for example, we put together customized reports and we'll suggest to them, you know, this is the kind of information that we would want to feedback, and it'll be, you know, things like, okay, how many sales are you making? How many leads are you getting? Where are those leads coming from? What's the path to conversion? What's the engagement time? Where's the drop off? What's the click-through rate? All those things that we would see as important metrics. But we always get back, this is great. Can we have the keywords? How many organic visitors are we? And it's always a case of, okay, but what we really want to measure is, you know, how much is organic traffic up year on year? And I might say to them, well, do you want us to like exclude the blog section because that could skew your traffic? That's not really important traffic. Like it's a vanity traffic to have, but actually how many of those people that are reading the blog are going on to buy, you know, toner cartridges, for example? Probably not many of them. You know, if they're coming on the blog to read about how to print out their boarding pass, I doubt they're that interested in buying a toner cartridge. So therefore we want to include them in the reporting. And I think there is, you know, as an industry, particularly for agencies, we do have a challenge around how do we better educate clients who for so many years have been, you know, reporting with those metrics in mind, and get them to focus back, you know, to start with the business goal and then almost see those, the traffic and the keywords as, you know, a nice to have. And I think they are important to have, you know, in your vision, because they do support what you're doing, but they're not the most important element of what they're doing. And it's a challenge for sure.
Anyone else?
I'd just say, I think this morning I read something on LinkedIn. Somebody posted about a CEO in a company who was just frantic on the stats on about 5 keywords, and it was causing the team absolute agony, because he was literally on a daily, weekly basis coming into the team, right? Are we still number 1 for this? Where are we with this keyword? And again, I think, Amanda, it comes back to that education piece, and it's difficult because for so many years, people have heard SEO number 1, top of the SERPs, and it's changed, it's evolved.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's great. All great points. And I had that myself at agency level, where they did, and obviously this was back then where things were slightly different, but yeah, just chasing one keyword, and it was just like, you could showcase all these improvements, engagement and sign-ups and everything. They just didn't care. It's just this one keyword. It's quite frustrating. But I guess you get through to them in the end. So yeah, anything else on that? We'll move across. Cool, let's go for it. So this is a really interesting one, and something that I think a lot of people are interested in, around schema. And is schema actually worth it? Is it worth implementing it? Because it can take time. Obviously, it has been sped up. From my own site, use like, you know, ChatGPT and stuff, and it did help speed up the process. But it can take time depending on your resources. And, you know, does it actually bring results? It's very hard to measure the impact of it. And, you know, people like Mark Williams Cook recently have come out and showcased how large language models, you know, work or don't work with structured data and schema, you know, code in there. So, you know, is it really worthwhile? So, yeah, I'll pass over to David on your views on that.
I've got to say, I still like schema. I think there's a place for it. I think it's up to the individual to decide how deep they want to go with it. As you say, using AI to create schema has made everything a lot easier. One of the pieces of software that I commonly use as well with clients is Inlinks. And that gives you a good head start with schema as well. And I know in previous years I've seen positive benefits coming from using schema when building out FAQs and areas like that. It will be interesting to see what happens with AI and its use of schema going forward. Whether it will decide that it is something worth looking at or not, I'll wait and see. But yeah, I think if it's not a main priority, but if you have the time, if you have the chance, it's worth adding in at least the basics.
Yeah, I think obviously I had the discussion with Marius Cook on LinkedIn. My point of view, because I all think it's all connected in some way. With Schema, it does help like Google and the likes of that to understand your information, your content, and it might increase your visibility on the SERPs. So I do think, although large language models may not directly go that route, I have had discussions with large language models how they do this kind of thing, and they do take influence from the SERPs. You know, who's ranking higher and all that. It is influenced by that. So okay, it may not have a direct correlation with it, but it's all connected. You know, if you're going to be if it helps you rank higher, and you know, so it's all connected in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Amanda, what do you think?
I was auditing a website earlier this week, and to be fair, the person I was talking to will probably watch this, so hi. It is your website we're talking about. But basically, I had never seen so much schema used on one page in my entire life as I did here, and they'd used everything under the sun, like, you know, your standard kind of product. They're e-commerce stores, so they'd used, you know, organization, product, and everything. But what they'd done on their homepage was they'd used Schema to kind of build a whole ton of entity listing. So they're essentially trying to build the website as an entity that had knowledge and expertise around specific topics. And they just stuffed the code like with pages and literally pages and pages and pages of this Schema entity listing. And I just looked at it and I'm like, wow, this just reminds me of like SEO 15 years ago when people were stuffing keywords in the meta keywords tag. So I thought that basically my audit was get rid of it, that part of it anyway. But I think that I feel like it's one of those things that people have put it into their audits and they've said you need Schema, and they've then gone on the list and they've pulled out everything that, you know, could possibly relate to that website and they've popped it on. I think there's a time and a place for it. So I think for e-com stores, your merchant listing structure, your product structure, that's giving important information, price, availability, etc. And it's helping Google to understand that. And I do think that's important. And it's important if you've got products that aren't in stock yet as well, to be able to alert that you've got products that are coming soon. And I think that helps because, you know, potentially Google could see those products as not in stock and not favor it rather than understand they're coming soon. So I think it's nice in instances like that. But I feel like as an industry, we've kind of butchered it to the point where it just gets used so much now that I would be surprised if it's effective when it's used that much. So I think it's okay in moderation.
It's not like the SEO industry to butcher anything, is it? So yeah, I guess have you got any kind of any of you, obviously we'll go around the room in a bit, but Amanda, do you have any kind of examples of good case studies of Schema usage, or any of your clients actually seen any impact?
Yeah, so I think the product listing and the merchant listing schema has had a positive impact for a number of our e-commerce clients. And I think by default, a lot of companies have it now, but we've still come across a couple that haven't. And when we've implemented it, I think it's not just a benefit for the performance. I think it's a benefit for the way that it showcases in the search results as well, because obviously it allows to pull through things like price and availability and, you know, elements that would help or kind of, I guess, would help the click-through rate, gives a little bit more visibility there. So I think that has worked really well, both from a CTR perspective and a performance perspective. I would say we've seen it more on the e-commerce side than the lead generation side, but I think that's because I'm more of a favor of product and merchant listing schema, because I feel like it serves a purpose as opposed to potentially some of the ones on the lead gen side. We did try FAQ schema for a while. Google doesn't really recognize it anymore. And I think we're wary to not create code bloat unless we really think it's going to give a good return.
Yeah, fair enough. Kira, what do you think on this?
I'm a big fan of Schema, especially now with AI and watching it evolve. I've got an interesting story about how much it can impact an e-commerce website. So I do agree that it is better for the e-commerce space or industries that have a lot of images, and that connects to the story that I'm about to tell you guys. But with the rise of AI, with tracking GPT search, which I think a lot of people do now, because a lot of business comes to people through ChatGPT if they're trying to get a list of the most reliable whatever. AI takes a lot of good information from schema that you implement on a website, and we have seen that when you've got good schema, relevant, not going OTT on it and having 100 different things, but just the thing that you need most, that tends to help us a lot with our GPT appearance and tracking as well. And a story that I wanted to talk about, it was with image object markup. So it was schema that we actually had to update. It was an e-com website that was having trouble ranking. We couldn't figure out what was happening. Everything was right, as it is usually, and you think, why is this not first? Like, what's going on? This was a couple of years ago, and all we had to do, well, now it seems easy. We were like, oh, it was that easy, but it took a little while to figure it out, was to actually mark up every single image that we were trying to pull through to the search. And that one change at the time brought the result from 12th to 1st. So schema has a lot of power if you know what you're doing with it and if you implement it correctly and relevantly as well. So like Amanda said, that you have to know what you're working with and if it is going to work for you. It's not a cookie cutter thing, as we all know. So doing your research, understanding if you actually need it, but if you do, making sure that you never exclude it, especially in the age of AI, where we are moving very quickly towards people converting through ChatGPT as well.
Yeah, no, it's a case study, and I guess like anything in SEO, isn't it? It's like, don't overuse it if necessary, and also use it properly. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've looked at schema, and they have like random. They're trying to fit what's the saying, like round pegs into square. Well, I'm not even gonna.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
They're trying to put different information into like the wrong schema type, and it doesn't, like, it's just going to confuse things, if anything. So you really got to be careful on the kind of schema you use, where you put it, because now it's even easier to do. People just may go absolutely to town with it, and that's going to be dangerous. And then, like with everything else, like Amanda, you said, like, or Day, I can't remember which one you said it, but Google and the likes of them they'll just ignore it because we've overdone it and we've ruined it for everyone. So that's a real possibility. Carmen, what do you think on this?
I was going to say I had exactly the same case study as Kira. Like, we had this issue with one of an e-commerce company that they couldn't get the image and the products in a merchant center and the image in images, and we just changed the objects in the schema, and actually we started ranking exactly the same. I love schema. Again, obviously, I love schema in the context of being able to use it properly, and not like Amanda. I have seen that many times, like clients spamming schema everywhere, and it just makes no sense. And like always in the SEO world, we always try to take everything to the extreme. But I did have a comment about Google and, well, AI understanding the schema. I've seen the debates in the last few months or the last few weeks, everyone now getting hated against schema, and the AI cannot understand the schema. And probably I will get hate for what I'm going to say, but actually LMS, like large language model, they do understand the schema. So we cannot say implementing a schema is going to have a great impact in you showing up in ChatGPT, but the way that AI works, it scrapes your website, right? And it also scrapes the HTML code, and that means they can understand the metadata, including the schema. And what the schema does, it just simply help the robot to organize the content in a way that is easier to output, right? And that's exactly what Schema does. Obviously, now that Google has changed and put JavaScript first crawling, that's going to limit a lot how AI robots understand your content and scrape it, because they cannot, or for now. But we also have Bing who uses Schema, right? And ChatGPT uses a lot of information from Bing as well. So I wouldn't just go hatering to no, Schema is not going to improve or help you at all. I wouldn't go in the way of implementing Schema is going to make you show up in AI. But I do think Schema helps organizing the information and therefore helps AI organizing the information about your company. Like always, we need to take everything with a pinch of salt, right? You understand, you test, and then you prove it. I don't like when people go in extremes about one thing or the other. So I am and I will remain a fan of the Schema for now. Let's see in the future.
No, I think that's a great point, because I don't think anyone knows the full truth about anything. Let's be honest. So when people say AI, don't do this, most people, even the people that created the thing, don't understand what it does and how it does it most of the time. They're still amazed by the things it does. So saying it can't do this and it doesn't do that, if the creators don't know how it's working, how do you know how it's working? So I don't believe, look, I'm not saying that it's gonna, and it's got, AGIs here and AI is just gonna taken over the world and stuff. But what I'm saying is we don't really fully understand it, its capabilities. We think we understand it, how it's working with search engines and stuff, but we have no one knows 100%. So saying, I don't like it when people make definitive statements, because you may be very intelligent and they're a lot more intelligent than I am, and they do a lot of great deep digging, but I just try and keep an open mind, because I don't think we fully understand. Carmen, if you
I was about to say that I agree with you, and we know how natural language processing work, right? We know that what it does is organize the words depending on the context and depending on the role that it has in the sentence. Schema does that. So no, Schema doesn't do that, but it tells you, okay, this is this. This is the role that this word is playing in this context. So only by using that, I mean, it already tells you that it can help organize the content. And again, everything might change in 2 months. We don't know, because this is really fast. But when all these debates happen on LinkedIn, like everyone insulting each other, I actually read two specific papers on LLM, large language models, and how Schema did play a role in organizing the content. So there are 2 papers saying that, but then there are a lot of people who have never used or created an LLM talking about how they don't use it. I think, like always, just chill, don't insult other people, and keep an open mind in SEO, because everything changes really fast.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it's because one person sees something, maybe even repeats it, and they think that's the definitive answer, that's what it is, and they're not going to budge on that point of view. And then, like say, then someone does exactly the same and it gets the other outcome, and then it's just that's what happens in everything in the world, isn't it? So it's just is what it is. Any other points of view on this one? No? All right, cool. Well, we'll go on to the next one. This is I think all of you would probably be better answering this than myself, because of your agency kind of world, and Carmen, you work in you obviously speak to a lot of people as well, so you'll probably have a good point of view on this. But this was sent in via Blue Sky, actually, from Monsi Cano. Hopefully I pronounced that okay. You may all know her. And yeah, she's just kind of asking, how do key metrics, site structures, content strategy, and user behavior differ across industries in digital marketing? Obviously, with all the changes happening, our sub-industries moving a lot quicker, metrics changing a lot quicker than others. It'd be interesting to see your personal kind of opinions on this. From my point of view, the charity sector's probably a lot slower than other sectors, so I don't think we're probably as advanced as some others, but obviously we focused in a lot more now on, because of the way the economy is and stuff, we kind of reaching people, and obviously focusing on the sort of donation side, and yeah, so reaching people for that clinical information, all the people that need that support, and then obviously getting donations because it's a tricky situation. So yeah, it's so yeah, David, what's your viewpoints on this? What have you seen?
I mean, much like the charity sector, working in professional services, it's especially when I've been going in-house and working with people, it's often a political issue of getting stuff done, which can take an absolute age. But yeah, I think much like the charity side, it's a slow-moving sector. It's probably one of the things I miss about working with FMCG and e-com, the amount of changes that you'd be going through there, constantly learning about how site structure, navigation, people are going through the website. I will say with much of professional services, probably especially legal, there's a lot of hold-ons to what was being done 10 years ago. And there's a real fear of change, which kind of sums up professional services for the most part. So it can be difficult to bring new stuff in and convince them to take the leap of faith and try something new and different. That's something I seem to spend a lot of my time working on.
Yeah, I understand. I think obviously like for any other sector, you still have to obviously keep up to date the way people are digesting content and trying to adapt content according to how people prefer to digest it and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, obviously certain industries, I guess, are a lot more up for change than others, and not so much stuck in their ways. So yeah,
it's a shame because especially industries like professional services, the opportunities for many websites, many firms is there, and it's just getting the buy-in to get that done.
Yeah, it's just that worry, isn't it? Well, I've saw on the BBC around a legal firm that is now cutting any sort of usage of AI because there was an incident that happened, and and these things are going to happen. This happened with all the other advancements that came in. There are going to have some teething problems, but yeah. Amanda, obviously you've worked with a whole range of clients. What have you seen?
Yeah, so similar to what David said, we work predominantly with the professional services sector, or a lot of YMYL websites, and I think he's absolutely spot on, to be completely honest. We've got a client at the minute who spends an extortionate amount of money on advertising, but I've been asking them for 3 years to change their website because it looks like something that it just doesn't work. It's really difficult to work with. It's not functional. It's not necessarily up to date. But there's a real reluctance to do it. And I just think, you're probably spending 15 to 20 times the cost of a new website each month. So it wouldn't be a lot to put aside, but there is a real reluctance, I feel, to want to change, or a nervousness about what potentially happens if we change, or potentially like a lack of understanding as to what the benefit could be. And one of the ways that we've tried to get around that with a number of the kind of professional services companies that we work with is by actually going in and sitting down with their team, whether it's their sort of C-suite, whether it's like if it's a law firm, whether it's the lawyers, whether it's the accountants, like a lot of accountants, financial services, and just sort of saying, can we just have a half an hour with your team, your senior leadership team, to just go through, what SEO is, why we're doing it, so like to get them to buy in and understand the why of what the purpose is, how it's going to benefit them personally. So what are they going to get out of it? Obviously they're going to get more leads, but from a personal perspective, if they work with us, they also have the opportunity to be featured in press articles, which is great for their own growth and the development of them personally. So we try to kind of go through with them. Obviously it is difficult to get them all in one room, but we've generally managed to do it so far. We managed to get them all together and just kind of say to them, look, and I think sometimes it's hard, for the in-house teams to do that without the agency support as well, because I think they sometimes just don't get listened to, and it's big frustration. some of the people that we work with. So I've probably been a little bit firm, and it helps that we have some more established relationships with those clients. So I feel like we can kind of push a bit more. But I think, actually getting in front of those people, that particularly the people who might be the roadblocks, and explaining the why and what benefit it can be to them, plays a key role in getting that across the line, and then getting them to kind of come up to speed. But we definitely don't face the same challenges in kind of e-com FMCG for sure. It seems to be professional services where more of those challenges are.
I feel your pain, Amanda.
I think obviously when I was in e-com, it was very fast paced, and I think because you're looking at literally sales on a daily basis, and it means something, so they're more like more willing to take risks because they need those sales. So if you're saying it's worth it, let's just try it and see if we can bring in those additional sales, they will probably do it. Whereas if it's more of a long-term strategy, they're more like, let's just sit on what we've got and see how it plays out. And that's how I've seen it anyway in my own sort of career. Well, what you did say, which I thought was a good thing, is that work with the other teams like UX and stuff, because if they will be able to back you up on certain things. If you're trying to push through a message and they've got data to back up that sort of if you're seeing certain user behaviors and they can back it up with data, heat maps and all that sort of stuff that they look at, then that's definitely something to work on, because I've done that, working with the UX team or social, whoever it is, because we know like user behaviors are changing, and like you say, site structures are remaining very, like, for some websites, very much still old school, and they're not moving with the times, and even how they're laying out content. People, how they're digesting content is changing rapidly, and a lot of websites aren't picking up on that quick enough, and they're going to be overtaken. So it's interesting. Kira, what do you think?
Can you repeat the question, because I've got so much to say and I want to focus on the actual important thing.
So it's just about how do key metrics, site structures, content strategy and user behavior differ across the industries in digital marketing. Like, how have you seen certain industries moving quicker than others, or what's the kind of key changes you're seeing?
Okay, so I've worked with the tiniest of tiny clients, so very local, up to 100 million net worth, lots of teams all over the world. And I've noticed that the bigger the company, the more red tape around absolutely everything. But weirdly enough, it's the same when they're really tiny. So you have that sweet spot, which is a handful of clients, where you actually are allowed to have full autonomy over what you're allowed to do, how quickly you're allowed to move. Things like, I find SaaS, so telecoms, is a really big one. Anything where people think that it's, rocket science is where it's more difficult to get changes rolled out. So, I mean, it's an example of a client that I work with. So they're 5G training, global telecoms. Impossible to make any changes done because it has to go through 5 different people. So it takes about 3-4 months to get one thing that should be done in a day rolled out, which is obviously a bit of a struggle. We also have clients sometimes where they're not anything to do with software, cyber, nothing at all. It's like a cleaning company or something, and they've got the most ridiculous cybersecurity settings where you can't even put an internal link on WordPress, which I find quite funny, because you have to not fight with them, but you have to say, come on, like I can add this will help. So it's like everyone said before me, it is taking it day by day and seeing, kind of understanding people on a human level and why they don't want to do what they want to do, or how do you explain it to them. So it goes far beyond SEO, really. Our job every day is not to do SEO 100% of the time. It's to be a therapist, it's to be a teacher, it's to be a web developer, even if you're not exactly sure how to do it. It's to be broader marketing, even traditional marketing. You also have to give advice on, how big the flyer should be that you print. So it's and I'm sure I see everybody nodding because we're all in the same boat with this. But yeah, there is no grouping of how fast the pace goes with those industries. It depends on who runs those companies and how much faith and understanding they have in the search industry. 99% of the time, it's not much faith because they all come from working with someone who didn't do it justice. And that's a lot of the time why there is a lot of red tape. So that's kind of my, sorry, that was still really long, even though I tried to keep it short, but.
No, there's loads of valid points there. And yeah, I definitely can feel what you're saying there. That's definitely some really good points. And Carmen, what do you think on this?
I'm going to say that one of the most beautiful things of working in agency is that actually you end up getting access to so many different industries, so many different clients, and you can actually see things that work with some clients before, or things that wouldn't work, or even you will see how you need to look at things totally different from all the knowledge that you have before. And I'm just thinking, for example, right now, I used to do quite a lot of work in luxury shopping, and luxury shopping cannot be compared to normal shopping, right? You have a very specific niche of users that will end up buying your, let's say, if it's luxury clothes. They are located in very specific areas of the world. You won't be able to be doing mass targeting, compared to what I do now, which is a subscription for fitness, which everyone everywhere at some point wants. So I found myself in the situation that one of my colleagues used to work also in luxury, and was trying to apply the same logic that she used for luxury shopping in subscription, and everything failed. Obviously everything failed because what should have been done in the very beginning was to look into the audience. When you look at the audience, you understand your audience, you understand how they engage with your content, how they search the internet, where do they go, then you can actually change everything. And then it comes to earning the trust, like Kira said. You need to earn the trust of your client, or the person that you're actually convincing them to do something. But if you start from audience research, it's going to be way easier to justify any changes that you need to do. If you say to your user, you are spending a lot of money in ads in Manchester, but all the people with the money currently are in London, it might make more sense actually you focus all the campaigns that you're doing in London, or your paid campaigns, or your digital PR campaigns, or your content that you're writing is about London or Milan or anything, or the places where they are. You cannot do the same what I'm doing. So my advice for this will always start with understanding all these parts, and from there create the narrative into the small change that you want to do. So if you know that people only care about London, justify changing the navigation so people from London can find you. That is my advice, because it's the easier way to show a client that you understand their business, the easier way to actually make the changes that you want to make work and translate into revenue. No keywords, no rankings, no traffic, revenue, which is at the end what clients care. So that's for me where it has worked. I have had many failings in the past by applying, when I used to work in agency and I was young, by applying working one client to another, and it didn't work. So this is how I got into creating this narrative and making changes happen.
Yeah, great. I have so many thoughts to that, because Amanda, when we discussed around intent, the thing is, like, yeah, actually knowing your users is actually so important, and it's so easily or very often skipped or rushed in that state, actually understanding the users and knowing that their intents change. You can't just do it once and then suddenly think that's it for the rest. Things change, the intent behind things change, and obviously, everything can change, or where the money goes or wherever it is. So, and also, when I had James Brockbank on here, he was saying about, these stakeholders and clients, they don't care about traffic and keywords and stuff like that, really. All they care about is what it brings. That's what they want to know, really. Like you say, like the revenue. So yeah.
But actually, I wanted to even give if I can, a more specific impact of just in SEO, how knowing your audience will change how you target your users with the content. the users in Luxury, they really care about content that is super curated, that it has been written perfectly or video created perfectly, showing luxury with certain colors, certain lighting. For my current users, subscribers that want to lose weight, they actually want to relate to the people that are writing the content, or relate to the people that they see in videos. They don't want luxury, they don't want lighting, they want real people that can show them that have lost the way, or real people that actually can convince them that this technique is the right one. So if you apply the luxury logic into the subscriber who want to lose weight logic, it doesn't work, it doesn't convert. And it's something as simple as, again, knowing your audience and knowing how you're doing certain things in writing the content. You know the topics because you have done a keyword research, but how you put this content out there for the users to engage with the content, which is what really matters, you really need to know your audience. So that, again, is how you get your users to get your clients to get the buy-in, by showing them that you know their users, sometimes even better than themselves.
That's actually a really, really good example. So I'm glad if I'm looking to do a half marathon, I don't want to see like the gladiators doing it, because I'm like, oh, I ain't no gladiator and I ain't going to be running like that. I need to see people like me doing the half marathon so I can actually think I can do it. So yeah, it's a great example. I don't know if anyone's got anything else on that, or we'll move on. I just want to get one more thing out. But yeah, Amanda, go. You want to say anything? I didn't know if you...
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm also running a half marathon next month, and I also wouldn't want to see anyone, gladiator-like running it. I would prefer to see, people like me struggling, sweating, swearing, and dragging myself over 21.1 kilometers.
Well, good luck. I'm sure you'll smash it. So
good luck to you as well, Sean. I'm sure we'll get there in the end, right? Yeah. They told me that the road it reopens after 3 hours, so I've got 3 hours to get down it, so I should be all right.
Yeah, I just plan to finish. So yeah, let's move, because if you're good on time, we'll just get one more in at least, so we can cover that, because this is quite an important. Well, obviously there's a lot of discussion around AI taking people's jobs, and there's already companies making cuts for AI. You've seen last year Klarna cut a load of people because of to replace with AI, and there's been recent law firms and IT firms doing it. So yeah, this is kind of, and it all in the context I put together, like there was an interview on Joe Rogan with Zuckerberg, and he said he expected AI would soon be able to do the job of a mid-level engineer at Meta. And probably he said probably in 2025, we at Meta, as well as the other companies we basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And I also was reading up on this around Amazon, and they also warn their staff in a fireside chat around they're going to have to start looking at doing other things, because the coding side of it is going to be taken care of. So they're mainly going to be like just checking the code's okay. That was done by the AI pretty much. So obviously this is a broader subject, are all our jobs safe? But it seems like coding is one of the first ones being targeted. So David, what do you think?
I think, as you say, I think coding and copywriting are the two that I'm seeing hit. I'm probably closer to the copywriting side than the coding. But the people I've been speaking with, it's interesting. It's I get the sense that companies are, whether they know it or not, lessening the quality and to save the money. I think with the coding, I mean, I then wonder about who's checking the code. If AI is generating everything and something goes out that shouldn't, who's the one that is blamed for it if it's something quite serious? I think the accountability side of it is concerning. I think overall, I think the fact that with AI, it is still quite new. I think maybe the majority of people still out there don't understand it, know how to use it. And there's been a big rush to think we can save money doing this, which I think in a number of cases is not the right way to go about it. But I think as something that can help you and support your role, it works great. But still, I mean, I use it every day. It saves a huge amount of time, but there is still a lot of time running through doing the checks, making sure it's done what it's supposed to, and to a quality that I need as well.
Yeah, likewise. If I put everything straight out afterwards after running through AI, I probably there'll be some issues for sure. And like you say, I think a lot of some businesses have like quickly jumped on it because they see the money saving opportunities around it and not really thinking about the outcome of the quality. So which is understandable in today's climate. It's a tricky one. So yeah, definitely. Amanda, what do you think?
I mean, I think just to follow on from what David was saying before, if you're in the professional services sector, you're probably pretty safe. But I think, no, to be fair, one of the law firms that we work with are very quick adapters of AI. They're running a lot of webinars and panels actually about how they utilize AI to help sift through case types. So I think that's really interesting in terms of the different applications for it. But I think fundamentally, I see AI from a coding perspective. It helps with things like Schema. Can it build me a website? Questionable. Can it, what is the limitation of it? And also, where is the quality assurance of it? I think with anything, yes, AI can write content, but it doesn't necessarily write great content. It doesn't take into account things like emotion. It doesn't take into account, that human aspect of things. And I think from a strategic perspective, there will always need to be, an element of human input. And I think as a society, not to sound doom and gloom, but I have watched iRobot. We do, we do run the risk of, if we try to mass adapt AI too quickly, I think we run the risk of getting ourselves into a real mess because it's not mature enough yet. I asked ChatGPT to draw me an image of something, and what I get sent back is like the spelling's all wrong, the image isn't really reticent of what it is. And I appreciate that's not, what it's designed to do, but also I don't think AI is designed to do everything. So, from a coding perspective, can it help? Yes. But I think I would say AI in the same way that we would use it for SEO. So as an agency, we might use it to help us, if we're doing an ideation session and we want to collate all the stories that have been covered on a particular topic by a particular journalist recently, we would get AI to do that. We would get it to prompt some ideas, but then we would use a human input, to use that creativity, to use that sort of innovation. And I think it's great as a support tool, and I think it can definitely save a lot of time. But I think and you know what, maybe it will cost jobs because some people will just adapt it and they won't, bother about all the potential risks and all the potential concerns. But I think I'm more wary of it. Like I use it to, to support and quicken some of the things that I do, but I'm definitely wouldn't see it as replacing that human side of things, even from a coding perspective, because I think as a coder, it's still, I've worked on websites which have been written in a million different ways because coding isn't just a one size fits all. People do it in a different way, just like we do SEO in a different way, or we write content in a different way, or we do PR in a different way. And I think AI is more of that sort of one size fits all. So I don't necessarily think it's going to work.
That's a really good point, actually. And, people need to realize that obviously, like AI thinks a lot differently in a lot of different ways than what humans do. We don't think in the same logic. So, it's not like for like. And there's a lot of issues there. And also, I think the likes of Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, they all have a responsibility to be careful on what they say. Because when they put things out like, these kind of statements, they've got a lot of influence with people, especially people in business and directors and stuff. And then they're like, oh, actually, if they're doing it, it must be viable, if Amazon or Meta are doing it. So I think they've got to be careful on what they say out in public, because it can influence a lot of people in the wrong way. And like innocent people that don't deserve it are losing their jobs probably earlier than they should,
And if I can just add to that just really quickly, Sean, I think that power of influence is more widespread than we know. I know even, from time to time, my staff have approached me about something that's been posted on LinkedIn that they've seen and they've read and it concerns them. And they've asked me for reassurance, whether it's, AI or, just something else that's come up. And I think that there's definitely, there needs to be a little bit of awareness by people, in positions of power, or people who have a lot of followers or a lot of visibility, as to what they're saying and the impact it can have on people and the concerns it can raise.
Yeah, I'm sure it's only going to get quieter now. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are in power in the US. So, hey, Kira, what do you think?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? I agree with all the points about it being dangerous or misleading, or, we need to adjust to it. It is still very new, though. I know it's been around for a couple of years, but for a technology like that, it is brand new. The way I like to think about it is Neil Armstrong's father said, "I'll believe it when a man lands on the moon," because he didn't believe in the space mission, and then his own son did it. So it's kind of the we don't know what we don't know thing. Change is always really uncomfortable. It was for me as well. I wanted to hold off and be a Luddite to not use AI for anything, because I was like, no, manual work is the best work. But no, of course I use it as well. Like, you have to. And it's great, but you have to use it correctly. The biggest, to bring it back, into our world, is content writing. So if you request it, the world of content writing is breaking because of all of this. Universities want to cancel essay writing as an examination because they can't check if it's AI or not, and that there's just no way to prove. And the same with SEO content that we're putting out now. The quality has dropped, and you cannot explain to people who don't understand why you can't use it, why it's detrimental for you. So that part is quite dangerous. The next part is the coding aspect of it. If you try to request some code from ChatGPT, 85% of the time there's something wrong with it. So you can't really trust it 100%. But I think the beauty of it all is having someone capable to check through the output and understanding that it's still learning and that it's still not 100% there. That will be quite a beautiful combination. And the people who have cracked that are actually putting out a lot of good work with AI. The ones that think it can do it all for them, it's not a corner cutting device. You have to do the work still, but the ones that think it does cut corners are the ones that are going to have issues in the future, I think.
Yeah, amazing points as usual. And and also, you have to realize that people like Amazon, like Meta, so on, they've actually been using AI for a very long time. It's been part of their system for an extremely longer time than we've got our hands on it in technology. Like, people like, I bring this up all the time, but at DARPA, they're using technology like we can't even dream of in 30 years ahead of us. So, these companies aren't just like ChatGPT version 4 or whatever, they're way ahead of these. So, don't try and be like, obviously, if you've got, like you say, you do it properly, it can definitely work. And and obviously it'd be good if you could actually, hopefully in the future we would have, if these people are going to be replaced by AI, we have a plan for those being replaced, because we're just going to have a load of people just sitting with loads of great skills doing nothing, and it doesn't make much sense, does it? Carmen, what do you think?
I think I'm going to be the pessimist of the group, because I am no coder or developer, but 2 weeks ago, using Claude, I was able to develop an app. Obviously, in my first attempt, my app was not good. It wouldn't do a lot of things, but without being a coder, and if I were to put my mind into it, I would be able to develop one. Obviously, there are lots of things that you need to do as a developer. You need to make the website beautiful, or the app beautiful. You need to be able to crack the code to get users to stay with you, to engage with you. Those are things that only humans can do. But the reality is that a junior developer, Claude, the most advanced version, can do a junior developer, which is someone who can do the basics by getting someone senior to check it. That means there are lots of companies that are going to try to save the roles of junior developers, which means junior developers won't be able to learn unless they have the specific skills that they need to adapt to. And those skills are being able to do something that AI cannot do, and that is cracking the codes. For me, I have zero interest in becoming a coder, but I have seen it firsthand how junior developers got sacked from the companies I used to work before, just because Claude was able to do it. And I'm talking about Claude, I'm talking about Perplexity and many other. They are not free, that you pay for, that are specifically made for this. This AI encoding is not new, and it's not even 2 years ago. It's been around for a very long time, paid, not free. And developers were getting away by paying it and learning how to use it. Now that it's open and free, or sort of, is what is making it more dangerous. I have the same feeling with content, with written content, and even video. Man, I was creating a video the other day with the AI by Facebook, and it was shocking how if you improve it and you give the right prompts, it can be quite realistic, which is going to make the internet really dangerous, because you're never going to know what is true. You're never gonna, the content that you write, you don't know if someone wrote it. The content that you're seeing in YouTube, you don't know if someone did it, and people will fall for it. And it's going to make the internet dangerous and potentially redundant in the future. I'm the pessimist. I'm just hoping things change. Obviously, like always, the answer is the human touch, because people are like normal people, not the marketers. They are unaware of AI. They're unaware of the videos being created by AI. Now they will be savvy about it in a couple of years, and they will start demanding content that is created by humans and that can be proved to be done by humans. But in the meantime, these next years, I think, is going to be really gray. It's going to be really difficult to get your content to prove that your human written content or human touch content is better than AI content. And Google is going to continue prioritizing AI content unless they check it themselves manually. And it's going to be really difficult to prove to clients what works and what doesn't. So, and this is coming from my experience, because I've been seeing the videos and I cannot tell the truth, which one is the real one, and I should know. So imagine people who don't know. So yeah, I think I have not lots of hope for this year and next year in terms of junior people, in terms of for developers and copywriters. And my advice is learn how to use AI, prove that you are the best at doing AI, and prove your value, because we need to adapt. I'm sorry for being pessimist.
No, I mean, I think that's what Amazon was saying. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was saying that you're not going, but you need to start progressing in areas of artificial intelligence, and learn to develop your skills and adapt them, because these traditional skills aren't going to be as important in future. So it's kind of like a warning, I guess. Is there any other comments on this topic?
I think it all comes back to us being exceptional prompt engineers. It's interesting. I mean, the other night I spent about an hour and a half working on a prompt. I threw it into ChatGPT for deep research. It spent over an hour going through that to create it, and I was massively impressed with what came out. I think as people learn to use it, yeah, that's where we're going to really see the change. But yeah, I think it's, things change. We're just going to have to move with it.
Yeah. I wrote the other day a prompt this long, and I was like, they're not going to understand. I was using Claude, because now I'm into using Claude to see the difference. I put it there. I was, it's not going to know it. Man, it did the work that it would have taken me 1 week to do. It did it in 1 hour. So I just put all my documents, because Claude can also read the PDFs, right, properly and understand it. I put everything in there. I processed the prompt one by one, and I did an amazing job. But I only had to review it, and that's it. So this shows you how advanced it is, and it's more advanced than what we really think it is, I think.
Yeah, great point. And just to finish off, you know, I also create a few tools that I would be asking for developers to try and test out. It's a great testing platform. Like, you just want to see if something can work. You can now put it together yourself as a demo. It's a great, you know, you haven't got to do the whole thing, but it's really cool. And Sora now is now available in the UK, and I was just playing around with it earlier today. The kind of text to video tool from OpenAI, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, obviously there's still flaws, but you wouldn't really be able to tell, like the hair's flowing in the wind, and you know, they looks like they're real. You really couldn't tell, and that is scary, like you say, for people creating videos, video production. You know, what's the future for those? You know, and if they look like real people and they act like real people, then how can you what's the difference in, I want human-based content? Well, they're doing everything a human does. So and on that as well, I was watching the film Her with Joaquin Phoenix. It's on Amazon Prime for a limited amount of time, so you go and watch it. Well, obviously that's all around obviously he falls in love with artificial intelligence, but if it kind of goes that way, where it actually understands humans and can act like a human and feel like a human, if it goes down that route, which obviously Sam Altman has said it wants to be that, then yeah, that's going to be a very interesting future for all of us.
I don't really believe it's going to get that far, because at the end of the day, it's using language. It gets language and shows it to you, but it cannot create language from scratch. But I don't think it will get there, but it's getting really creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some examples recently where and again, I don't know if this is fake and people saying this is AI itself, but where two AIs are talking to each other, they realize they're both AI and then go away and talk in their own language on a different system. So that's very interesting, if true. And I have heard similar things at Meta, where they Meta or Google, and they did a similar thing with a group of computers, and then they realized that they was all just talking to each other and did something else that aside from what the prompt was initially. So yeah,
sounds a bit like LinkedIn at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so on that bombshell, let's just call it a day. So I've had you on for longer than promised, and I really appreciate all your time, and I'm sure you got a busy day ahead. So yeah, thank you all for joining. It's
Thank
been
you,
really
guys.
Thank you.
It was super
Thank
nice.
you.